Hi everyone, this is Andrew, the second video of today, or second video of tonight, and really what I want to touch upon is net neutrality and that whole issue, and I won't go into too much detail about this, about what it really is, because I'm sure most of you are aware of what it is, especially if you're watching this video on YouTube, and more than likely you are. Here's what's going on. I'm going to go ahead and start out with a story. Now, I used to be a college radio DJ, and I used to program a sports talk radio show. What happened was we were trying to apply for more power with the FCC to get a much larger, to be able to get a much larger audience. We wanted to go from, I forgot how much wattage we were, but we were trying to get X amount of wattages over what we already had. The Clear Channel already got wind of this. They found out that we were trying to do this. They blocked it. They kept, and we were just a community radio station, not a lot of funding at all, and really all of our funding came from the college itself, which fund us the very same way they fund every other club on campus. So there weren't really all that many resources anyways, but they blocked it. They wouldn't allow this college radio station to gain more power and have more access to a larger audience base, because Clear Channel has a pretty substantial foot in the radio market all throughout this country. Now, here in Western Massachusetts, it's really just three main radio companies. It's Sega, Cumulus, and Clear Channel, of course. So, of course, you had if we were allowed to have more power, then we would have had much more access to the western half of Massachusetts. We would have had a much larger audience than possibly what Clear Channel could have, or what Sega could have, or what Cumulus could have, because we had a lot more diversity, diversity in our station. We had much more diverse people doing these radio shows, and of course I was the only talk radio show on air. Everybody else was doing music while I was doing sports. So as you could see, there was a whole bunch of stuff that we were doing. It was the sports radio talk show, it was metal rock, it was hip hop, it was underground hip hop. It's, stuff like that, stuff that you can really get into, sink your teeth into it, and would have had an opportunity to be able to hear something new from other artists, with the exception of some mainstream music. We did play some mainstream music, but most of it was really catering towards the underground market. So why did I tell this story? Why is this story so important? Well, it applies to this whole net neutrality bill. You want to know why it applies to this whole net neutrality bill? Well, I'll tell you why. Because just like Clear Channel, AT&T, Verizon, and many of these other companies are going to have, and mostly it's just AT&T and Verizon, they're going to have more access to the internet. They're going to have more power to the internet, just like Clear Channel has with radio. They're going to pick and choose the type of content that can stay online versus other content that they may or may not agree with. Now, back in the mid-70s, John F. Kennedy had talked about how the radio should be in the public domain, that it should not be for profit type of thing that the public should have access to. And right now, as we see, not only did Clear Channel shut that down, and of course JFK also made paleo illegal, paleo being something where a recording company would go to a DJ or go to that radio station and says, hey, look, we want this artist to be on air. We need this artist to be played at a certain time, at a certain day, or we just want this artist on the air all the time. We'll pay you some money. That's supposed to be illegal. That's not supposed to be allowed, but it's allowed. They allow it, and it's a standard practice, as if even if it wasn't illegal. You know what I mean? It's like going to the bank and withdrawing money. That's exactly how they do it. It's standard practice. But I digress a little bit. Going back to the whole internet thing, it's very similar to radio and how radio has been consolidated. That's really what this is all about, is consolidating radio and consolidating content. The people who are nonprofits, the people who aren't making all that much money online by having a news website, for example, or things like that, they're the ones that are going to be, because that they have to pay more money for better quality service, they're going to be shut down. Or that's at least the attempt here, is to shut them down, to destroy alternative views, and then allowing mainstream media, CNN, Fox News, all the above, to be able to have unmitigated access to the internet, just like they do in television, just like they do in radio. And that's the whole issue here with net neutrality. And there's this huge push right now to pass this, because they know that mainstream media is dying. They know less and less people are even paying attention to mainstream media. And CNN is just, it's the cartoon news network. It's not really providing any type of public service whatsoever. It's just entertainment. It's just like E! News or TMZ, and that's exactly what CNN is right now. Now, of course, I digress into that little rant, but what's going to happen also is it's also going to make things more expensive on the internet. And the internet is not a luxury, it's a necessity for most people. So let's say you're doing some online banking, right? And you have to pay. Of course, there might be some fees involved. It depends on what policies you're adhering to whatever bank you're working with. But let's say this thing passes, and you want to transfer money from one account to another account, and all of a sudden you start noticing that there's more fees added onto that, and then there's more fees added onto that. And then they charge more for fees that they already charge you. For example, take money out of your IRA or something like that. Transfer money from your IRA to your checking account. I don't know how that would work online. I don't do online banking, but I'm just trying to pick the best example I can think of right now. But the point is it's going to cost you more money to do online banking, because, especially for the smaller banks, because it's going to cost more money for them to stay in business, is what I'm saying. Same thing with Netflix, same thing with Amazon.com, same thing with eBay, same thing with many of these other companies. They're going to have to charge their they're going to have to charge their customers more money to be able to have access to their content, because they themselves are going to pay more to have to be able to have a business in the first place. And of course, AT&T is going to rake in all that money, and Verizon's going to rake in all that money. So, I mean, on the bright side of all of this, it'll certainly help brick and mortar stores out, because less people will be doing online shopping and more in-store shopping. But what the issue is here is that this is a freedom of speech issue. This is a First Amendment issue, and as JFK had talked about in the not the mid-70s. I know I said mid-70s earlier, but during his presidency overall, what he had talked about was the radio being in the public domain, that the public, under the First Amendment, has to have unmitigated access to the public airwaves, because that is what free speech is. And it's, of course, he would say the same thing about the internet today that he said about radio back then, back in the 60s. So that's the issue. That's the fight that we're waging right now. Down with this bill. We can't end net neutrality. We absolutely cannot end net neutrality. We can't let these bigger conglomerates have control over the internet, because if they have control over the internet, then they can they can control whatever it is that they want to control, and as far as what information is disseminated to the general public. So, and here's another example too: is what's going to happen to all what's going to happen to all the online schools? What's going to happen to community colleges? What's going to happen to universities that make a pretty good chunk of change offering online courses? They're going to have to offer more money on their online courses to get people to go to their courses. And then what will happen then is people will forego the courses altogether and just take the in-person courses, because those courses will essentially be cheaper now that the universities have to pay more just to have access to a service that will allow them to have to be able to offer online classes. So thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Take care. God bless. And I'll see you guys later. Bye.